Hello there everyone, it's Lydia here with you today with another technique video. Today I'll be sharing with you this card with a little technique I like to call watercolour tracing. I'll be using stamped images to trace over them with some water and adding in some dots of colour with some inks. It's a really fun technique and I really hope you like it. So to start with, I'm going to be using with this large label die. So this is from the Frame Lattice die in the Naturally Inspired Stamp of Approval collection, and I'm going to be stamping my sentiment in first so I can get the position of my images on the tops and bottoms. I'm using the Simply the Best stamp set to stamp my sentiment, and this is in Midnight Catherine Pooler ink. A really good archival ink, and I'm going to be watercolouring and I don't want this to move, so that's going to stay in place. The colours I'm using for the watercolouring will be Garden Party, Tiara, Bellini, some Pixie Dust is coming up next, a lovely pale purple. Also Lime Ricky, one of my favourite all-time CP inks, some Fiesta Blue, and also a little bit of It's a Girl. And they're the colours I will be using. I'm going to be using the Wild Garden stamp set to create my watercolour top and bottom images, and also two of these little stamps from the other stamps in the collection. But I end up only using one from the Birds of a Feather stamp. The other one is from Medallions Mix It Up if you wanted to know about that one. So I've stamped my image down in a second generation ink. So I've stamped it off first and then I've stamped it onto the piece where I want it. I've then gone over with some water, some clean clear water with a little paintbrush. This is a really small one. And then I'm just dabbing in colour into the leaves where I want it. I do tend to dab the ink into the darkest part of the leaf and let the water pull the rest of the ink further down the leaf, and this will give you a really great blend. So there we go, there's the first one. I've used Garden Party to stamp it. Here we go, I'm doing the same leaf again. I do tend to go from top and bottom so I can get more of a symmetrical look. So I've stamped in Garden Party, gone over with water, and then I'm going to be adding in more Garden Party and some Lime Ricky and also Fiesta Blue. I really do like having blue tinges to my leaves. I don't know why, I just think it's really pretty, and that's the kind of look that I always go for when stamping it this way. I do feel that this technique gives you a really hand-painted look, so it's going to look like that you've actually painted these images yourself when in fact you've just traced over them, which is a really clever idea. This time I'm taking another image from the Wild Garden stamp set. I've stamped it in some Tiara. So you do want to make sure that you do stamp it off first and you are actually just stamping the second generation ink onto your project. Otherwise, the ink will just grab the paper and you will not be able to move the ink around at all. So I've gone over the flower bit with added in some water into all of it. I've dropped in some Tiara and also a little bit of Bellini, and I've added the Bellini to the center of this flower so it creeps out towards the edges, so you're still going to get the yellow edges on the flower but more of a darker peachy center. As before, I'm going to do the same thing that I've done from the bottom onto the top. So I've inked the image up in Tiara, stamped it off, so I'm using the second generation ink, and then stamped it into place on my label die. Again, I'm just going to wet the top of the flower first, so I've wet it with some clean water, dropped in some more Tiara to make it more of a yellow flower, then added in some Bellini, and then I moved on to the stem. I'm not going to worry too much about the colours of the the flower moving down the stem, because it still gives you the watercolour look, so I'm not too bothered about that. I've moved back on to my favourite branch from the set. I'm just going to mix a little bit of the Lime Ricky and the Fiesta Blue, as I do feel that this gives a really beautiful colour and I'm really liking it. So I've gone over the stamped image, which I stamped in Garden Party with clean water, and then dropped in the mix of blue and purple, and then probably added in a little bit more blue. I just like the look of blue leaves, I'm sorry. I did figure at this stage that maybe you wanted a closer look at what I was doing, so I've moved it in for a little bit of a close-up on this one. So I stamped the image off, stamped it again and gone over it with water and dropped in colour. I'm sorry, I do tend to go off the camera because I'm working in such a small space now, so I am sorry for that. I'm just going to add in a couple of the berries. I've just inked up the very top of the berry image. I've rubbed away some of the ink that I didn't want, and then I've done this in some lime Ricky, some pixie dust, and also some flirty fuchsia for the darker bits in the berries. It's a really pretty look. I'm actually really liking that colour, and I'm not really a purple girl, but I do like these ones. So I'm doing the berries for the stem first, and then I do the berries. Again, I'm not worried about these two colours mixing too much because it's just going to add to the effect of the watercolour painting that we are trying to create. Again, I'm just stamping up the very top of this little bushy, branchy image, and I wanted to make it into kind of a lavender or a lilac kind of look. So I went over with water, dropped in some purple and also some pink, and that's going to give me a really great variegated look on this. I have stamped it twice, so it's going to give me more of a full bushy feel. So you can just play around with the images. You don't have to use them as they are all full. You can just take portions of the images, ink those up, and then use them like that. This is a small little flower from the Birds of a Feather stamp set. I'm just stamping that up in some tiara and adding some pink in it to these. And it's just going to fill in some of the spaces that I couldn't quite fill in with the branch images. And it just makes it nice full image and just adds a little bit of difference. Maybe you didn't have enough colour of one colour that you wanted in a spot. Just add in a little flower and you're going to be able to create more of a coordinated look with the whole piece rather than having just one colour somewhere, and you can just add in little varying spots of colour with the tiny flower from that stamp set. I'm going to add in some more of the flowers like I did before. Again, this I stamped with tiara, added some more tiara into the flower and some Bellini, and then I'm going to be using lime Ricky for the stem and leaf as well. So pretty. I shouldn't be blowing my own trumpet, but I really do like this effect, especially with this stamp set. It works really, really well. And again, I'm going to be taking this little branch image and I'm just going to be inking up the top part because I do want this as if it's going behind a flower. I don't want it to go over like I've done on some of them. So I am just going to ink up the top piece. If I do get ink where I don't want it to fit too far down the branch, I will just rub that away with my finger and it won't go on to my piece. And I'm just using this as like a filler. Maybe you have a bit of white space that you do actually want to fill. I would recommend just using one of these images and maybe doing it really, really soft, like not adding a lot of ink to it, and it's going to give you a look that it is further away than the rest of the images in the set. I then wanted to add a little bit more pinky purple into my composition to even out the lilac presence in the cluster of flowers. So I'm stamping the small flower again from Birds of a Feather in It's a Girl and adding some pixie dust to the centres. So this is going to create more of a even look with the colours. To add my piece on to my card blank, I've just added some foam tape for a little bit of dimension and added it onto my card base. To finish, I've just added a couple of sequins and to give it a little bit of shine and depth and a little bit more interest, and there is the card complete. I really hope you've liked this technique today and that you do give it a go. It's a really great technique and it works for lots of different solid image stamps that you may already have in your collection. Again, thank you so much for watching and I really hope you have a beautiful day.